I spoke to someone about you today, and he said the following to me. Someone who many his views you would recommend, you would agree with, some not. He said to me that after complimenting your mind, the quality of the mind, and contributions you had made, he said that what you had done is turned American exceptionalism on its back, and that you're, for all those who believed in American exceptionalism, you had believed in exactly the opposite, whatever that is. Now let me stay with this question. On the other hand, there are people who have asked you, look, if you have such strong feelings about how wrong-headed American policy has been, why don't you leave the country? A frequent sort of thing is thrown at people who are critical frequently. And you always say, I love this country.
Yeah, well, sure.
Right.
I mean, it's a very interesting question. Well, let's try it on some other country. You know, sometimes it's easier to think about things clearly if we distance ourselves.
Great.
Now, let's go back to, say, the big enemy, Soviet Union.
Right.
I mean, the Russians would have been delighted to have the dissidents leave the country. If Sakharov had been willing to come to the West, they would have applauded. Does it make sense to ask Sakharov, why don't you leave the Soviet Union? I mean, I suppose
no, I'm not trying to ask that. You understand, I'm not asking that question. I'm actually using that question to make the point that you've always said.
That's the framework in which the question should be understood.
Right.
It's assuming that you can't have a democratic society.
You stay and fight for values because you love the country.
And you think that the country ought to live up to these values. And you can't rank countries A, B, C, D. Countries have all sorts of properties. There's a culture, there's a society, there's modes of interaction, and so on. A lot of the things that are simply achievements. Take, say, protection of free speech.
Right.
It's unique in the United States. There are a lot of great things that have been achieved. There are a lot of rotten things that have been done. If you have any concern about the country, meaning its people, its culture, and so on, you want to save and extend and amplify the achievements and modify the
and you would
crimes.
put the protection of free speech high up on that list.
Very high. And it's not the only one.
Okay, but tell me more, and then we'll come to some of the criticisms that you have made about American imperialism and the like.
See, we have to make a distinction between state power and a country. They're different things.
I understand the difference.
But it's often not distinguished. If you criticize state policy, you're not criticizing a country.
I understand that too. I mean, frequently when you're traveling around the world, as I do, people say, I love, America. I'm just having
hate the policy.
I hate the policy. Sure.
And we're responsible for the policy. It's a free country. We can't say, I don't have any responsibility for the policy, because we do. We may not know about it, but then we should find out about it. And if we decide we don't like it, we should change it. In fact, take a look at the question we've just been discussing, two-state settlement. Right. About 2/3 of the American population supports the international consensus on this, and long has.
Which is there ought to be a two-state solution.
Roughly the 67 borders.
Right.
And it's kind of interesting to look at the polls. I mean, polls you find roughly 2/3 of the population saying, yeah, they support that. And roughly the same proportion says the U.S. ought to become more involved in the diplomacy. People don't know that that's a contradiction. The reason that that program has not been achieved is because of consistent U.S. intervention to prevent it from being achieved. And that continues at this very moment, in fact. Okay, it is a free country. We've got a lot of freedom. That means people have the opportunity to discover its work. It's not going to come easily. It's where the internet is helpful, to have the opportunity to discover the relevant facts and background which should show them that their position is contradictory. They must come to understand what the U.S. government role has been over the years in preventing the outcome that they want.